Hello, everyone. Um, so I was thinking about my own depression for some reason, and I was just going through the motion, and I figured, um, when you're someone who's very politically aware, you tend to look at your personal issues within the grander um, systemic problems that are plaguing us as a society. And within that prism, um, one of the greatest, most prominent features of depression, I think, for most black people in South Africa is, most black young people in particular, is unemployment. I think that that's also primarily what is making me uncomfortable, depressed. I count my words a lot. And that is because the plight of unemployment amongst young black people is so paralyzing. Many of us end up taking jobs where we end up taking jobs where we end up taking jobs that are very much below what it is that we studied for. And that is just a consequence of the deep unfairness of the system. All the wealth is compounded in the hands of a few people, traditionally white people, white kids that we shared classrooms with don't nearly have to try as hard as we're trying to get ahead. At the end of the day, wealth is how you generate business, how you make money. At minimum, you need to be able to get a loan, and black kids just aren't the preference for banks. Rarely do we have enough credit or good credit. And this is someone who grew up in a suburb speaking like this. Now, I can only imagine how a person who grew up in the township and the rural areas feels. It is paralyzing. I think at this moment I'm at the most depressive part of my life. This doesn't really feel like a political breakdown so much as it feels more like a testimony of the pain to experience this. And I think that it's somewhat good that I'm able to experience this, because it showcases that our country is in a dark space. The meritocracy has just ended altogether. Not to say that it was there to begin with, but there was some hope that there would be allegiance to it. But even if it's a small, allegiance to merit. But if you have a political order where you have to have a certain skin color to succeed, or you have to be a member of a certain political party to succeed, eventually, even within those respective privileged classes, if they are applying some form of a meritocracy, eventually the allegiance to the privileged class will dismantle systematically over time any semblance of a meritocracy. And we are the victims of that. South Africa, at its conception, was a project that was really not going to succeed, at least in the model and in the form in which it was ushered in. Given the history of colonization and apartheid. Even a 3-year-old child would have been able to tell you that aggressive measures need to be undertaken to change the system. Such measures need to be within the context of a merit-based system. Unfortunately, if that were applied then, many politicians would have not been able to be in positions of power because many of them weren't educated. Many of them have dropped out of school and high school, primary school, high school, university to go and partake in the armed struggle. And some people stayed and finished primary school, finished high school, finished university, and they would have been in a better position to lead the country if aggressive transformative measures were to be undertaken within the framework of a meritocracy. But that didn't happen. And because politicians wanted to benefit, they wanted to eat, they wanted to enrich themselves, it is the short-sightedness of that that truly defines the problems of our society. Because if you want to live comfortably, let the person who has the best skills run the system, and that person will increase productivity and growth at a much more comprehensive level for everybody to live comfortably. But if you take a position of authority knowing that you lack the intellectual know-how to do the job, then you will destroy what is there, or you will not grow. You will destroy, you will stagnate, or you will not grow. Well, stagnating and not growing, same thing. But the point here being, it is this plague of trying to preserve certain privileged classes, be it political privileged class or a racial privileged class. It is this plague that has brought us to this point. I feel my depression of not having a job, not being able to relieve my parents of the financial burdens that I am, not being able to start my life. And I look at it from a depressive standpoint. Of course, it makes you depressed, but I also look at it much more extendedly, and I say, this is a consequence of people just not wanting to play by the rules that everybody else is expected to play by. Be it because they are white, be it because they belong to a certain political party. And once people start believing that the system is unfair, they start breaking the system down. And we have seen, manifestations of such of late. So I just wanted to run that take. I feel like I should be saying more, but I don't know. I'm thinking of stuff, but I can't even look at the camera properly because, generally it's a little bit weird. I'm talking to myself. It's I just felt like documenting this is important. I consider myself a very bubbly person. I know maybe it's not obvious right now, but I consider myself a bubbly person. And to watch myself systemically break down, of course. Are there personal reasons for why this is the case? Yes, there are. I can break those down, but it is a compilation of a lot of things. And you look for certain relief. We deal with a lot of personal issues in our day-to-day lives. And that's bad enough. To then have a system that is eroding in its integrity, to have this dog-eat-dog mindset engulf this country, it's painful. to live in that reality. It's really, really hard, but it's just the reality, unfortunately. And I think that maybe South Africa deluded itself for long enough of a time, telling itself that, well, things are going to work out well, and people were kind of happy about 94. But the hardcore facts are, from this country's inception, it wasn't realistic. You can't undertake minimal economic adjustments to change, at least to satisfactory, levels. To change to satisfactory levels from the perspective of the people. You can't make minuscule, small adjustments to a system of centuries long that was organized to undermine, people. That's the fact that the country started like that, and has moved in that fashion, stubbornly so. We see leaders being elected to the highest levels of power, preserving that. I think my depression, though it may be caused by a multitude of things, central to it is that I can't feed myself. I can't feed my family. I can't rid my parents of the burden of me. And just at a masculine level, it is incredibly emasculating to be a man who can't get things done because the system requires you to go to the darkest places to get things done. I don't want to get an ANC membership. I don't want to have to grovel at the feet of white supremacy in order to get a job. But it seems to be the case that that is the only way to survive in our society. And that is a painful, painful reality that I know that I'm not the only one who's feeling. I think many young black, in particular, kids are feeling this. I know that it's a global phenomenon. You hear about Americans complaining about young Americans, complaining about young white Americans, complaining about the fact that they can't start their lives, working 2 to 3 jobs to make ends meet, heavily skilled, underpaid. So it is a global problem, but let's just say it smacks a little bit more aggressively in South Africa, given the decades-long brutality, systemic brutality of corruption, and that being allowed to exist by white supremacist forces that want to preserve their privilege. I think it's painful beyond anything else. Yeah. Thanks.